Ugly cow, old burden. Soon the mansion will be mine. She hissed the words in French, certain I wouldn't understand. But I did. Every venomous syllable cut straight through me, right there at my own dinner table. While my son laughed, blind to her act, his fiancée mocked me, plotted my erasure, and revealed the inheritance she secretly craved. In that moment, I knew this wasn't just dinner. It was the beginning of war. Before we dive deeper into this stormy story, let me remind you, don't forget to subscribe to Twist Stories and turn on the notification bell. Here, you'll always find tales of sacrifice, betrayal, and shocking turnarounds. And tell me, where are you watching from? Drop a comment below. Perhaps the next story will echo your own experience. My name is Helen Carter. I'm 61 years old, a widow, a mother, a woman who gave up every dream so my son could live his. I worked 2 jobs for decades, patched clothes, stretched meals, saved pennies until Michael graduated college debt-free. And yet, after all those years of sacrifice, I found myself at my own dining table choking on a taste I hadn't known in years: humiliation. Michael had brought home Vanessa just 3 months ago. To him, she was dazzling, brilliant, worldly, fluent in French. He looked at her as if she hung the stars. And at first glance, she seemed perfect. Warm laugh, polite compliments, even helping with dishes. But her eyes, those eyes, never reached her smile. I ignored it. Because what mother doesn't want her son happy? That night, I cooked roast chicken with rosemary, Michael's favorite since he was a boy. My heart swelled as he carved the first slice, and for a moment, I let myself believe this might be a new beginning. Then Vanessa leaned toward her phone, her French sharp, rapid, careless. She didn't know that 20 years ago I had fought through night classes just to follow my husband's work abroad. My French was rusty, yes, but not dead, and what I heard shattered me. Vieille vache, inutile. Bientôt elle disparaîtra et le manoir sera à nous. Ugly cow. Useless. Soon she'll be gone, and the mansion will be ours. I bit my cheek until blood filled my mouth, forcing a smile as Michael raised his glass. Mom, Vanessa's teaching me phrases in French. Isn't that sweet? Vanessa smirked. She thought she was safe behind that language. She thought I was blind, deaf, too old to matter. But she was wrong. Later, after they left, the house fell into silence. Her words echoed in my ears. Useless. Soon gone. The mansion. Mansion? We had no mansion. My late husband's family estate had been sold decades ago, so why did she speak of it as if it already belonged to her? That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed every detail I'd overlooked. Her questions about family property, her 2 perfect smiles, the way she subtly nudged Michael's words. And then I remembered. During dinner, she had slipped away to check her makeup. But when she returned, I caught a faint trace of my husband's cologne, the one I kept sealed in a drawer she couldn't have known existed. The next morning, I checked. The drawer was ajar. Beneath the bottle lay property records, faded deeds, and legal letters my husband had once tucked away. She had been snooping. And in that moment, the truth struck me cold. Vanessa wasn't after my son's love. She was after something far more dangerous, something hidden. I straightened my spine, my fear hardening into resolve. She thought I was useless. She thought she could erase me with a whisper. But she underestimated the wrong woman. And from that night forward, I vowed I would uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The morning after that dinner felt like waking into a dream I couldn't shake. The kitchen smelled of strong coffee, yet my hands still trembled as I opened the cedar box my husband had kept hidden for years. Inside lay old deeds, a photocopy of a trust, a letter from a Boston attorney I had nearly forgotten, and taped to the back of the folder in his neat block letters was a small brass key labeled Shack. The word looked harmless, even silly. Shack. But it echoed like thunder now that Vanessa's whisper haunted me. The mansion will be ours. The phone rang. Michael's voice was light, cheerful. "Mom, Vanessa loved the chicken. Think you could make it again for Christmas Eve?" "I can," I said, steadying my breath. "Michael, did Vanessa mention anything about property? Something from your father's side?" He laughed. "Oh, that old stuff? She's just curious about family history. She says heritage is romantic." "Heritage is romantic." My grip tightened. And the word mansion. A pause. "Mom, are you worried? Vanessa's sweet. Sometimes you just read into things. If you've ever watched your son drift into the orbit of someone who sparkles too brightly, you know the ache. I wanted to shake him and cradle him at once. Instead, I whispered, "Just be careful, darling." He chuckled. "You worry too much. Love you." The line went dead. Outside, a winter wind rattled the porch rail. Inside, the brass key burned in my palm, and my intuition screamed like an alarm only I could hear. That afternoon, I called my niece, Rachel Morgan, the one whose spine had never learned to bend. "Ray," I said, "I need your eyes on something. It's about Michael's fiancée." Her tone sharpened instantly. "What happened?" I told her everything. The French slur, the smirk, the scent of my husband's cologne. The word mansion hissed like a promise. "She thought you wouldn't understand," Rachel bristled. "People always assume older means dull. They forget older means lived." "Tell me I'm paranoid," I begged. "I'll run some checks, public records, socials. But Aunt Helen, don't confront her yet. Narcissists perform when cornered. Gather facts first." Facts. They'd kept me afloat through paychecks, bills, tuition receipts. I could do facts again. That evening, my laptop glowed against the dim kitchen. Vanessa's social feeds gleamed with cafe lights, Paris steps, bookshops. Perfect. Too perfect. One photo nagged me. A Parisian bookshop. I right-clicked, ran a tool Rachel had shown me. There it was. The same image on a travel site. A stock photo, dog in the window and all. My heart thudded. I saved it into a folder named Questions. Days crawled. When Vanessa visited, she draped sweetness like silk. She folded napkins, asked about hymns, but her eyes flicked from cabinet to photo frames to the locked drawer. She touched things too quickly, like a tourist rehearsing a theft. What was she hunting for? One rainy Thursday, I carried a casserole to Michael's townhouse. No one answered. Then a voice carried from down the hall, Vanessa's, sharp, deliberate. 2 years is plenty. Marriage, petition, conditional status, then removal. He's a perfect candidate. Loyal, generous, image-conscious. The mother? Harmless. Harmless. The word detonated inside me. I set the casserole on the step and walked away in the rain, coat soaking through, pulse thrumming with ancient fury. If you were me, would you storm in or let the fire harden into strategy? That night, Rachel called back. "Aunt Helen, your instincts are not wrong." I gripped the phone. Vanessa Reed's footprint doesn't match her story. The Paris photos are mostly stock or scrubbed. Job claims don't hold. And there are men. My throat tightened. Men? 2 I can link, a nurse in Phoenix, a contractor in Ohio. Both profiles went dark after whirlwind romances. No public accusations, but the pattern is textbook. Textbook what? Romance fraud, she said. Sometimes for immigration, sometimes inheritance. She mirrors interests, accelerates commitment, isolates the target. Each word struck like a gavel. "And the brass key?" I asked. Rachel paused. "Your husband's shack. I found a county record. It's a small outparcel that never sold. It reverted into a trust your husband retitled 15 years ago. The mailing address is still your P.O. box." My breath caught. So there is property. Something, yes. Not a mansion, but significant. If it anchors mineral rights or right-of-way, it could control everything. The shack wasn't a joke. It was leverage. Ray, I whispered. If Vanessa thinks there's a mansion and there's a shack, what's the bridge between them? Leverage, a legal quirk, a missing map, she softened. Do you want help beyond me? Pride burned, but motherhood had taught me. Strength isn't silence, it's choosing allies. Yes, Rachel gave me a number. Thomas Blake, investigator. Looks like an accountant, which makes him perfect. The next morning, I met Thomas at Briarwood Cafe. Plain suit, sharp eyes. I told him everything. The French insult, the stock photo, the whispered plan, the brass key. He jotted notes. When's the big gathering? Christmas Eve. Michael asked me to make roast chicken. He mentioned a surprise. Proposal with heirloom jewelry? I flinched. His father's ring. Vanessa stares at it like a cat at fish. Thomas tapped his pad. I'll dig deeper. Aliases, leases, vehicles. I'll also map the estate. If the shack is a gate, we'll find the chain. Meanwhile, you do nothing out of character. Let them underestimate you. I thought of Vanessa's smirk. That part won't be hard. Before leaving, he added, if this is immigration fraud, we'll need federal eyes. Can you wait? Through the cafe window, a mother pushed a stroller, a baby's fist wrapped around a mitten. Waiting is a mother's native language. I can wait, I said, but not forever. Days later, while polishing silver, I found a slip of paper beneath the buffet felt, a doodle of a compass rose, a note in my husband's hand, North Gate, stone marker, 3 knocks. It was the kind of riddle he once left on anniversaries. My eyes stung. How many messages had I missed in grief? At dusk, I drove to the old property line. Winter fields lay bare, earth ribbed with frost. By a mossy stone marker, I knocked. Once, twice, 3 times. A metal click. In a cedar box lay a folded vellum map sealed with wax, and beneath it, a second brass key. The map showed estate boundaries, a right-of-way vein, and a tiny square, the shack, positioned like a chess piece blocking all access. My husband's handwriting read, if anything happens, the heart of the house is the path, not the walls. The shack's value was not walls, but position. Control the path, control the house. I drove home with the map pressed to my chest. I was not useless. I was the gate. 2 days before Christmas, Vanessa arrived early to help. Cream cashmere, porcelain smile. Helen, may I set the table? Your taste is exquisite. Please, I said, handing linens. She drifted toward the hall. Restroom is the second door, I offered. She nodded sweetly and disappeared. I counted to 60, followed softly. She wasn't in the restroom. She was at my bedroom door, ear nearly touching the wood. Looking for something? I asked, close enough to smell the ghost of my husband's cologne. She startled, then recovered. Oh, my lipstick. Silly me. She raised a purse, smiling. Where should I put the wine? In the kitchen, I said, then steady. And Vanessa? Yes, Helen. My bedroom is private. Her smile thinned. Of course. She glided away. When she was gone, I locked the door and slid the vellum map into my robe. The house smelled of rosemary and resolve. The night before Christmas Eve, Michael arrived with roses, nerves twitching. Mom, tomorrow I want to do something special. I'd like to propose to Vanessa with Dad's ring. Is that okay? A scream clawed at my throat, but then I remembered the softness of his little boy cheek under my hand. It's your life, I said gently. But Michael, real love never asks you to stop listening to your own good sense. Do you hear it, sweetheart? His eyes flickered, confused, defensive, tender. I hear you, Mom. After he left, I stood at the sink, soapy hands trembling. We were stepping into a storm, but I was not, unarmed. Christmas Eve morning, Thomas texted, It's bigger than we thought. Second key likely for an archive safe. Confirmed Vanessa's Ohio alias. Federal contact looped in. Do not confront. Do not confront. The bell rang. Vanessa stood at the door with a pastry box, eyes bright as mirrors. "Happy Christmas Eve, Helen. Shall we set the table for a perfect evening?" "Yes," I said, taking the box. "Let's make it unforgettable." If you were in my kitchen, smelling rosemary and hearing china click into place, would you tell your son the truth now and break him, or hold it like a blade, waiting for the cut that saves rather than scars? I chose the blade. I chose timing. I chose to be the gate. And as I tucked the vellum map into my robe, a car slowed outside. Tires crunched on snow. A shadow paused at the curb, then drove on. The house held its breath. Someone was coming. She mocked me in French and thought I wouldn't understand. Tonight, in front of my son, her mask would slip, and the truth would finally speak louder than her lies. Christmas Eve shimmered with fragile beauty. Frost lace on the windows, candles trembling in polished holders, rosemary and lemon drifting from the kitchen. Beneath it all, my nerves hummed sharp and metallic. Michael paced the living room, his hand brushing the pocket where the velvet ring box burned like a live coal. He believed he was about to orchestrate romance. I knew he was standing on the edge of a cliff. Vanessa was radiant, her cream silk dress catching every flicker of light, her pearls gleaming like bait. She floated between rooms, setting the place cards she had insisted on printing. "To make it elegant," she'd said. But I noticed how her fingers lingered on the family cabinet, how her eyes returned again and again to the small velvet box when Michael left it on the table. She wasn't just preparing for dinner, she was circling her prize. Dinner began with laughter that felt rehearsed. Michael raised his glass. "To new beginnings." His smile was boyish, trusting. My own toast caught in my throat. Halfway through the meal, Rachel slipped in. She kissed my cheek, whispered in my ear, "Thomas is ready." To everyone else, her smile was effortless. To me, it was warning. Vanessa's eyes brightened. "Rachel, Michael told me you work in government. How glamorous, all that travel and diplomacy." Rachel set down her fork with quiet precision. "Mostly paperwork and recognizing patterns." She looked up, calm, deliberate. "Funny how patterns repeat." Vanessa tilted her head, the picture of innocence. "Patterns?" Rachel sliced into her roast chicken. Quick engagements, sudden marriage petitions, the same names surfacing in different places, like a motif in a song. A flicker crossed Vanessa's face. Her fork hit the plate too hard. Michael frowned. "What's going on?" I squeezed his hand under the table. "Son, before you make promises tonight, you need the truth." He pulled back slightly, defensive. "Mom, not now." Rachel leaned closer, her voice cutting clean. "Michael, Vanessa Reed isn't her only name. She's used others. Always the same pattern. Whirlwind romance, financial entanglement, disappearance." The warmth drained from the room. The candles seemed to burn colder. Vanessa laughed, too high. "Oh, come on, you believe gossip scraped from the internet?" That was when Thomas Blake appeared in the doorway. Plain suit, calm eyes, a folder in hand. He could have been mistaken for an accountant until he spoke. "Mrs. Carter, may I?" I nodded. He opened the folder and spread photographs across the table. Vanessa with a nurse in Phoenix. Vanessa with a contractor in Ohio. Hairstyles changed, but the same predatory gleam in her eyes. Michael's fork clattered. "Vanessa!" Her mask cracked. Rage flashed, then smoothed into a practiced smile. "Old friends. Out of context." Thomas laid down a lease under her Ohio alias, the signature curling exactly the same way as the one on her driver's license. Michael pushed back from the table, his face pale. "Tell me this isn't true." Vanessa's charm snapped. "Don't be naive. Your family owns more than you realize. That shack, yes, I know. Control the path and the mansion is yours. With me, you could have everything." My heart lurched. She knew. She had pieced together the key, the map, the inheritance. Michael turned to me, eyes wide with betrayal and confusion. "Mom, shack, mansion, what is she talking about?" I stood. My knees shook, but my voice did not. "Your father left me the key. The shack is not wealth, but it is the gate. Without it, no one can touch the estate. Vanessa hasn't been loving you. She's been hunting. And at my own table, she called me useless, an ugly cow in French. I understood every word." The silence fell heavy as snowfall. Michael's disbelief cracked into horror. Vanessa rose, her chair screeching against the floor. "So what? He loves me. He'll forgive." Enough. The word came not from me, but from Michael. It was sharp, final. He pulled the velvet box from his pocket, opened it once, then pressed it into my hands. "This belongs with family, not fraud." Vanessa's face hardened into stone. Her voice sliced the air. "You stupid man. You'll never find anyone who loves you the way I pretended to." Headlights swept across the window. A knock at the door. Agent Laura Hayes stepped inside, badge glinting. "Vanessa Reed, also known as Christina Marsh, you're under investigation for marriage fraud and financial exploitation. Please stand." The room tilted. Michael sagged. Rachel froze mid-breath. Thomas stood steady as granite. Vanessa's mask shattered completely. She turned her sneer on me. "You didn't save him, Helen. You destroyed him. He'll never trust love again." Her wrists were cuffed with an elegance that mocked her pearls. Then she was gone, led into the night. The door closed. Silence returned, broken only by the flicker of candles. Michael buried his face in his hands. "Mom, what have I done?" I slid into the chair beside him and touched his shoulder. "You trusted. That's not a crime. It's a gift. You just gave it to the wrong person." He sobbed quietly. Tears rolled, heavy, like debts finally coming due. For the first time in years, I felt a strange relief, a truth no longer hidden. But as I pressed the velvet box into the sideboard and felt the vellum map against my chest, I knew the story wasn't finished. The shack still waited, silent in the winter fields. Not treasure, not ruin, but power. And with it, the real heir's truth. Christmas morning broke gray and still, as though the world itself held its breath after the storm. The night before had ended in chaos. Vanessa escorted away in handcuffs, Michael shattered, Rachel silent with worry. Yet beneath it all, something inside me had shifted. I was no longer the overlooked widow, dismissed as useless. I was holding a truth larger than Vanessa had ever imagined. The vellum map weighed heavy in my robe pocket as I brewed coffee. Michael shuffled in, his eyes rimmed red from sleeplessness. "Mom," he said, voice hoarse, "I don't even know who I am anymore. I loved her. You thought she loved you too," I finished gently. "And that's not weakness, Michael. That's humanity. But love without truth is just theater." He nodded, staring into his cup. Then he whispered, "What did she mean about the shack? What mansion?" I pulled the map free, spread it across the kitchen table. "Your father left me this. The shack isn't about walls or roofs. It's about the ground it sits on. It controls the path to the old Carter estate. Whoever owns it can control any access or development. That means leverage." Michael blinked. "So she wasn't just after me. She was after this?" "Yes." I tapped the map. "But she underestimated us. She thought I'd be blind. She thought you'd be easy. And she thought no one would notice the path." Rachel arrived an hour later, snow dusting her coat. "Thomas confirmed it," she said, laying down documents. "The shack property has been quietly accumulating value because developers have been circling the old mansion estate for years. But they can't move a stone without access. The right-of-way runs straight through the shack." Michael leaned forward, incredulous. "So this tiny shack could control millions?" Rachel nodded. "It's not the house, it's the keyhole. Whoever holds it, holds the door." I sat back, remembering my husband's handwriting. The heart of the house is the path, not the walls. He had hidden the truth in plain sight, waiting for the day someone would try to take what wasn't theirs. 2 days later, I met Thomas at the old Carter property line. The shack stood like a forgotten sentinel, its roof sagging, windows clouded. Yet the lock gleamed new when I slipped the brass key inside. The door creaked open, revealing dust, cobwebs, and, most importantly, a fireproof safe bolted to the floor. Inside lay a folder stamped with the seal of a law firm long dissolved, but the documents were still binding. Deed transfers, mineral rights, an updated trust naming me as trustee until Michael's maturity at age 35. The shack was ours, legally airtight. "Mrs. Carter," Thomas said, almost reverent, "this is the twist. She was right about the fortune, wrong about the access. With this trust, your family holds the gate. Developers will have to negotiate with you, not around you. It's ironclad." For a long moment, I just stood there, listening to the silence of the shack, the echo of my husband's foresight. By New Year's Eve, whispers spread. A development consortium approached us, eager to restore the mansion and convert surrounding land into a heritage site. But the price of admission was steep and only payable through us. Michael looked overwhelmed. "Mom, I don't know how to manage this. I nearly gave it away to a fraud." I took his hand. "Then let me lead until you're ready. You'll learn. But for now, we do it together. As family." Rachel squeezed my shoulder. "Vanessa may have left scars, but she also revealed your strength. You're not just surviving, Aunt Helen. You're protecting legacy." That night, as fireworks cracked the sky, I felt a strange calm. For once the tables had turned not through rage, but through law, through truth, through patience. Still, part of me longed for closure. Vanessa's last words haunted me. "He'll never trust love again." Was she right? Weeks later, Agent Hayes called. "Mrs. Carter, thought you should know. Vanessa took a plea. Marriage fraud, identity manipulation, prior financial extortion. She'll serve time, then deportation. She won't trouble your son again." I thanked her, my heart both heavy and light. Justice didn't erase pain, but it planted a boundary, a line Vanessa could never cross again. That evening, I handed Michael the velvet ring box. "One day, you'll give this to someone worthy. Someone who sees you, not your inheritance." He stared at it for a long time, then placed it back in my palm. "Keep it for me, Mom, until I know." I nodded. For once, I wasn't afraid of waiting. The shack was renovated that spring. New roof, fresh paint, a plaque that read "The Carter Gatehouse." Visitors walked past it on their way to the restored mansion, never knowing the battles fought for its control. I stood there one afternoon, sun warm on my face, watching children run along the path. My heart felt steady. The ugly cow Vanessa had mocked was now the gatekeeper. The useless widow was the pillar, and the son she tried to break was slowly healing day by day. I looked skyward and whispered to my late husband, "We guarded the path. We kept the heart." And somewhere in the quiet, I felt him smile. Spring came in colors I hadn't seen in years. The bare branches that once scratched against my bedroom window now bloomed in quiet defiance, as though the world itself wanted to remind me, winter always ends. The shack, our gatehouse, stood newly painted, no longer a forgotten relic. Children laughed as they skipped past it on tours, and their parents marveled at the restored mansion beyond. But every time I looked at that weathered square of land, I saw more than timber and mortar. I saw the battle of my life, fought not with fists, but with faith, patience, and law. Michael walked beside me one afternoon, hands in his pockets. He looked older, not in years, but in weight. Heartbreak etches lines deeper than time. "Mom," he said softly, "I can't believe how blind I was. She had me wrapped around her little finger." I touched his arm. "Michael, blindness isn't trust. It's love misdirected. You gave her the gift of faith. That's not shameful, that's human." He shook his head. "She almost cost us everything." I smiled faintly. "But she didn't. Because the truth has a way of breaking through no matter how many lies are stacked on top. Your father left us the key, and in the end, it wasn't her lies that decided our fate. It was our strength. Rachel joined us that evening for dinner. She raised her glass. "To Aunt Helen," she said, her eyes gleaming, "for proving once again that underestimation is the enemy's greatest weakness." I chuckled, embarrassed. "To family," I countered, "the kind that stands by you even when the world calls you useless." We clinked glasses, the sound like a bell ringing clear into the night. Months passed, and Michael began to heal. He no longer flinched at Vanessa's name, though the scar remained. He started volunteering at a local community center, helping teenagers with career planning. "If I can save them from one bad decision," he said, "maybe it will make my own worth it." And one day, he returned from the center with a spark in his eyes I hadn't seen in years. He spoke of a woman named Emily, kind and unpretentious, who shared his love for literature and his stubborn streak of optimism. I smiled quietly. Life has a way of offering second chances when we least expect them. As for me, I learned a truth I wish I'd grasped sooner. Strength doesn't come from silence. It doesn't come from swallowing insults or hiding bruises of the heart. Strength is found in the moment we refuse to let someone else define our worth. Vanessa thought she could break me with 2 words in French, but instead she gave me back my voice. And to you, dear listener, I ask, if you were in my place, would you have stayed quiet, letting lies steal your family's future? Or would you have fought back, even when the cost was heavy? I believe you already know the answer. Because at the end of the day, respect isn't given by blood, or by promises, or by pretty lies wrapped in silk. Respect is earned through love, through truth, through kindness. And though betrayal burns, healing is always possible. For me, for my son, perhaps for you too. So I leave you with this. Guard your path, dear friend. Guard it with truth, because sometimes the smallest shack holds the greatest key. And remember, you are never useless. You are the gate. If this story touched your heart, let me invite you into our community. Have you ever faced betrayal inside your own family? Have you ever been underestimated only to rise stronger than before? Share your story in the comments. You'll be surprised how many people here will understand. How many will say, "Me too." Here at Twist Stories, no one suffers in silence. Each story is a reminder. We are not alone, and justice can always find its way home. So if you haven't yet, subscribe and join us. More stories of sacrifice, betrayal, and the twists that change everything are waiting for you. Until next time, remember, the path you guard may one day guard you.